Hey there, Tundra Nation, and welcome back to the channel. Today on Tundra Tactical, we bring you another edition of Ask Tundra Nation, the show where you guys, the fans, get to ask your questions to me and have them read and answered here on the show. So stay tuned, thanks for watching, and let's start the show. Before we dive into the questions this week, just a quick reminder to check us out over on Twitch right here at twitch.tv/Tundra Gaming Live. We stream 7 days a week starting at 3:30 p.m. Central, so if you're looking for more Tundra content, that is definitely going to be the place to be. All right, let's dive into the questions. In our first one, it's a doozy, and it comes from Mose, the keeper of Lord King Carl, and he wants to know, what is your least favorite caliber and why? Boy, this could get spicy because I have a lot of least favorite calibers, but if I had to pick one, if I had to pick only one to be the worst of the worst or the best of the worst, I don't know, it would definitely be 40 Smith & Wesson. And not because of the caliber necessarily itself, it's because of the people who advocate for the caliber. I'm not saying everyone does it this way, but a vast majority of the 40 shooters that I've come across in my life, and they're getting less and less nowadays because it's just pretty much a dead caliber at this point. But they are so hopelessly devoted, enamored, I guess, with the cartridge that it seems like there's no opportunity to tell them they made the wrong choice in most situations. The 40 Smith & Wesson was designed essentially to compete with the 10 mil, and the 10 mil was brought to life because the FBI or federal agencies needed something to be lethal through barriers. If you guys remember the 90s and a couple of incidents with the feds that didn't go so well with the 9mm. So the 10 mil was, and I think it was the 10 mil first. It might have been the 40 first, but I'm pretty sure it was the 10 mil first. And then the 40 was designed to compete with it. The 40 won the contract. 10 mil essentially died off for a good period of time, and now it's making a comeback, believe it or not. But back to the subject at hand. The common misconception here, if you're a new shooter watching this, is that 40 is an intermediate round between 9mm and 45. And while from a purely caliber perspective, the size of the actual projectile itself, yes, that's absolutely true. It is a medium diameter round, but diameter of the round doesn't always indicate, or it's not always indicative of how much power that round has. Like I said, the 40 was designed to be lethal behind a barrier, so windshield. What am I, from England? I was just watching the Grand Tour, so maybe that had some influence on that phrasing there. But like windshields, small barriers like corrugated metal, drywall, things like that. It was designed to penetrate through that and still be lethal. So the fact that people carry these, even in like smaller barrels to reduce velocity or having heavier grain weight rounds, it's still just in my mind not smart. But the problem is not the caliber, it's the shooters of it that really drive it home for me and make me just never want to have anything to do with 40 Smith & Wesson ever again in my entire life. Because the minute you bring this up, it's just statistic after statistic after statistic, and it's all a bunch of, pardon my French here, but, well, not pardon my French, but phrasing, just noob stuff. It's just all a bunch of ignorant noob stuff where they're like, but this and this and this. I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, it's not practical in the real world. It's just not the way it is. You want something that has a moderate, amount of stopping power, good ammunition capacity, and great flexibility in rounds. Well, just get a 9mm then, because literally the 9mm outperforms the 40 for your standard self-defense practice in most situations. Yes, the 40 will penetrate harder. Yes, the 40 has more energy, but you don't always want that in, a crowded environment or at home. You want something that has a little bit less. And the minute you bring that up, all fucking hell breaks loose. And I just cursed there. So I'm going to have to bleep it or get hammered by the YouTube algorithm even. Yeah, that's really the reason why I hate 40 Smith & Wesson the most. A lot of calibers that I hate are because of the people who shoot them and just the fact that they're totally unreasonable to any form of criticism of their choice. I mean, you can criticize me all day of my choice. I'll listen to you. Might not agree with you, but I'll at least listen. And then I'll mercilessly make fun of you. Mose, thanks for the question, buddy. Let's move on to the next one. All right, one of our favorite recurring members here on Ask Tundra Nation has come back with a vengeance with this question. Trauma, he asks, guntuber battle royale. Who wins? That is a tough one. Definitely not me. Definitely not me. I have been sporting the dad bod and living that dad lifestyle for far too long to be competitive in any form or shape of battle royale. Not Brandon, because, well, the minute he runs out of hair product, he's going to be losing his mind and probably go insane. Man, this is actually kind of a tough one because there are a lot of like really, like battle royale, if you pit them all together, Hunger Games style. I want to say just like purely from an entertainment perspective, if I had to answer this question purely from an entertainment perspective, it would be Kentucky Ballistics. Hands down, it would be Kentucky Ballistics. He'd go out there, he'd go all Arnold on it, rip his shirt off, cover himself in mud, slink through the trees like a giant ape. Well, it's essentially what he is. But I love Scott. Scott, if you're watching this, that wasn't a shot. Please don't kill me. I love my life and I would like to live longer. If I'm being realistic, however, I am probably going to choose... I might catch some flack for this one, but John Lovell, he seems to have the best overall combination of firearms related skills, survival training, medical ability, craftsmanship, I guess, not craftsmanship, bushcraft, that type of stuff. So he would seem to me to be the logical choice in who would win if you pit. And this is also kind of determined on like how many people are involved in this. Are we talking like 100-person battle royale style? Everybody jumps in from a plane like they do in the video games, and it's just like immediate combat, or do they start on the edge of the map? I've been playing way too many video games, man. I should start focusing more on videos. But if you guys didn't know, also, I am taking a little bit of a break this week. It's just kind of a mental health week for me. I've got a lot of projects coming up that I'm trying to organize and get together. We should see some shooting videos coming up here pretty soon. I know, very strange, but I'm going to do my best to make that a thing this year. Still keep the Tundra style and the Tundra touch. But back to the question, I'm firmly in the John Lovell camp. If I was a betting man and had to put money on it, I'd put money on him. Thanks, Trauma. Our first practical question comes from Empty-Headed Gamer, and he wants to know, I'm sorry, I'm reading this from my phone. For concealed carry, do you carry extra mags on the idea that you might need them, or do you figure that an extended firefight is not likely in civilian life? That's a fantastic question. I think it's a little misled, or maybe not misled, it's the question that a lot of people think of first when we're talking about spare magazines. And believe it or not, I do carry spare mags, but I don't carry them for the reason you might think. While carrying extra ammunition is definitely a huge thing, there is a major added benefit to that spare magazine as well that you might not be thinking about right off the bat, but once I explain it, you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer. I'm always going to be carrying spare magazines right now. While having more bullets is good, what happens if your gun malfunctions? What's the first step usually in a lot of malfunction cleaning drills? It's stripping that magazine out, right? Well, if you are in a gunfight, hopefully not, but if you are, chances are you're not going to be doing like the, pull it, put it in the pocket, rack, reload, rack again, and get back in the fight. Chances are what you're going to do is you're going to ditch that mag onto the ground and you're going to go for one of your spares. And that's one of the big reasons why I carry two, not usually 3 extra, but I usually carry 2 extra magazines. So 1 on the gun and 2 on the belt. That way, if you do have a couple of malfunctions, you shouldn't because you're taking care of your gun, I hope. But in the off chance that you do, I at least have that ability to get a fresh mag in the gun and continue that fight. Is it because, the back half of the question is something to the effect of, let's see how he worded it. Do you figure an extended firefight is not, or do you figure an extended firefight is not that likely in real life? I would agree with that. I don't think extended firefights are a big thing in real life for most civilians. Have they happened before? Sure, of course they have. But if we look at the statistical data over the last, few years, and I've spoken with our buddy Todd Fossey about this before. He was actually the one who made me aware of it. A vast majority, I'm not sure of the actual percentage, but a vast majority of male-related, like guys involved in self-defense engagements, happen within contact distance, within about an arm's reach of each other, within arm's reach of each other. And so at that point in time, is reloading even a feasible thing? If it turns into a grapple and you got to get your gun out and you're doing like a pectoral index or something on the ground, and you're doing other things with your support hand, will you even have the opportunity to reload? And by that definition was my argument earlier even valid anymore? I don't know. I've never been in a self-defense engagement as a civilian. So there are a lot of really, really good resources. Todd Fossey is absolutely a guy to look up and maybe ask some questions to about that. A lot of guys like Rob Pincus, Warrior Poet Society, once again. These guys deal with this every day. I do a lot of theory crafting in my head because, as we know, I'm a gun channel that doesn't actually shoot guns. Once again, looking to change that. But I think it's a fantastic question to summarize. I carry the extra magazines, not necessarily only for the fact that I've got more bullets than the other guy, but just in case I have a malfunction and need to drop a mag, clear that malfunction, and run a fresh new one. That way I'm not searching for it on the ground. Outstanding question, and hopefully I shed some light on maybe a new reason why you should carry a couple of bonus sticks with you. Thanks. Our next question is coming from, let's see, CD Matthew. CD Matthew is always, or almost always, the top 5 in the live stream in terms of who shows up first, so well done to you, good sir. To answer your question, he would like to know, do you have any preferred knife companies or designs? To answer your question, CD Matthew, no, I really don't have a whole lot of preference in terms of knives or designs of knives. I prefer just something relatively basic and standard, nothing too wild or crazy, the karambits or however you pronounce that. Some of them are pretty cool. If I had to pick a company that I've had the most products from in terms of knives, it'd probably be CRKT. Or is it CRKT or Cricut? I've heard it both ways. I've had people correct me on it both ways. What do you guys think? Tell me in the comments below. Is it Cricut, the bug, or is it CRKT? Is it CRKT? I always want to go dyslexic on it and go CKRT or CA, whatever. You get it. Is it Cricut or CRKT? I've had their knives for a while. I don't use knives as a combative tool. I don't carry a knife because, I plan on using it defensively. I carry a knife as a tool to help me with day-to-day things. Yes, it could be a weapon if I needed it to be, but am I actively training with a knife? No, I'm really not. Should I be? I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys train with your knives? But yeah, in summary, I guess I don't really have that much of a preference. I see them more as a tool than a weapon, and I'm sure there are plenty of really, really good options out there. I know Benchmade's pretty high quality, but I figure I'm sitting there, setting myself up for a great, just as good joke. But yeah, I really know nothing about steel or quality of steel in, the sense that, or the nuance that it gets into knives, and I don't really have a whole lot of intention of learning that. So yeah, hopefully that's a suitable answer for your question. Sorry, I don't have a favorite. Next up on the list is coming from Don Rayner over in the EU side of things. And I think we've touched on this once or twice before, but we'll go ahead and answer it again. He'd like to know, what are your preferred ammo manufacturers, and do you separate between carry and training ammo? I'm going to tackle the second portion of that question first, my friend. And yes, I absolutely do separate between carry and training ammo. I think what you're talking about, I don't know. Are you talking about physically separating the types of ammo, or am I talking about my personal favorite brands being separated? Let's say I really like Winchester for target ammo, but I hate their defensive loads. I think that second one is what you're more talking about, is the companies in terms of their practice ammo versus defensive loads. So that's what I'm going to cover. Yes, I do separate them. My absolute favorite defensive load are the Hydroshocks, 9mm Hydroshocks. I can't actually even remember which ones I have right now. But yeah, I've got a fair few of them. I've probably got about 100, 150 of them floating around here somewhere that I could probably go take a break and look, but I'm not going to do that because this is Tundra Tactical and we half-ass everything around here. So while the Hydroshocks will be my favorite brand or type of defensive ammo, I don't really have a whole lot of preference when it comes to practice ammo. I will say this, I don't shoot reloads, especially other people's reloads, and I don't reload myself because I like my hands where they're at. And I don't know if you guys saw the picture of that dude with that thing in his eye that happened a little recently. Granted, I'm sure that wasn't from a reload, but that's the kind of crap that can happen. when your buddy says, hey man, I got a bunch of extra ammo, lying around here. You take it. I reloaded it, last week, and you don't know if he's been, sipping, and he accidentally double charges or does something wild and crazy. Those, the Gordon Ramsays of the reload press trying to alter those recipes and get them just so. And while they might work in their gun, which could be a $3,000 Atlas, competition gun that's designed to take those, probably won't work in your, $400 to $600 carry gun very well. Or it might work too well and the slide comes off and domes you in the forehead, which would suck. So yeah, with practice ammo, it's just any, reasonably priced box ammunition. Are there better ones out there? Sure, there are. Statistically, I'm sure. Once again, it's Tundra Tactical. I'm too lazy to look up those statistics, so I'll say, if MagTech's available, like, the good old blue box, there's a lot of that up here. Federal makes some good target ammo. Winchester White Box is good. Remington UMC is good. Do you have problems with it occasionally? Yes, you do. But for the most part, especially with target ammo, it seems to work just fine. But yeah, in terms of separation, the only company I really endorse and support, not the only actually, because Spear Gold Dots are really good to rip rounds. I'm totally joking with that. Somebody just puckered up and was like, oh yes, I get to get them now. Yes, I get to get them. No. I get you, not the other way around. But yeah, Hydroshocks and Spear Gold Dots are probably my number 1 and 2 choices. Now, this next question is an old one. It kind of slipped through the cracks a while ago, but as I was going back up to see which questions I was going to pull for today, I did find it. And Gertie, I believe is how you pronounce it, would like to know any recommendations on what kind of rifle I should get for a new buyer. This is a classic question. And Gertie, I'm not on you particularly. I cursed again, gonna have to bleep that. But I'm not crapping on you or your question here. I'm just kind of saying this as a general statement. This is one of the worst questions that you can ask because it's so vague. It's so vague. I have no way of answering that question. Even if I was like an actual expert, not just playing one on the internet, once or twice a week, and knew what the heck I was talking about, it'd be really difficult for me to answer this question. So I'll put it back onto you and say, what do you want your rifle to do? That's a great way to start. Say, what kind of rifle should I get if I want my gun to be blank? If I want a home defense gun, so if you want a home defense rifle, I'd say some brand of AR-15. If you got, enough budget, you can look into stuff like BCM. You can look into Aero Precision. If you're on a little bit lighter of a budget, the SIG M400 Tread is probably my top tier choice for a budget gun. And then maybe like a Ruger AR-556. Not the world's biggest fans of the Smith & Wesson M&P Sport 2s, but they'll do in a pinch. It's an AR. They're built pretty standardly. The one company I wouldn't really, there's two companies that I wouldn't really advise in terms of a defensive rifle. In terms of a range rifle, one of these is okay, the other isn't. But Bear Creek Arsenal and Palmetto State Armory. For a range rifle, a PSA gun, that's going to be fine for you all day. I have heard a lot of stories about some tolerances being a little goofy on PSA guns, which cause them to have certain issues. Don't know if those are substantiated or not. I've just kind of heard them rumor mill wise. So yeah, probably not for a defensive rifle, but for a range rifle, yeah, it's great. BCA though, please just stay away from them. Not only are they bad guns, but in a lot of cases, I've heard that they can be somewhat dangerous as well. If you're talking about maybe a hunting rifle, same thing. We've got plenty of options from Savage, Remington, although I wouldn't buy a Remington gun ever, pretty much at this point. The Mossberg MVP is a decent little shooter for, a budget gun. And then you can go way up the line, Tika, Seiko or Sako, however you want to pronounce it. There's a ton of awesome hunting rifle options. I don't know a lot of the brands in the hunting rifle world because I don't do a whole lot of hunting. Actually, I don't do any hunting. I do target shooting. And that's about it right now. So the long and short of what I'm trying to say here is have an idea of the purpose of the gun before you ask this question. Because, think of the amount of different models and brands of guns out there. It's almost impossible to have this universal type weapon. The AR-15 is probably as close as you can get. Maybe like a 300 Blackout AR-15 would be, a be-all, end-all, do-all gun, good for home defense. You could take some higher power loads out for hunting and, drop some medium-sized game. But, without that information, it's very difficult for the people that you're asking these questions to actually provide good quality information. And that in turn could lead you to make a bad decision and be less than impressed with a rifle, using it in a manner or a method in which it wasn't really designed to be specialized in. Once again, there are kind of the jack of all trades guns. But, if somebody's usually asking that question, they more often than not want something very specific. They just don't know how to articulate it yet. Because maybe they're a new shooter or they're getting into a new style of shooting that they really don't understand or know a whole lot about. And the only way to do that is to start asking those questions. But just the caveat, figure out what you want your rifle to do first and then lead in with that. And then the expert, quote unquote, that you're asking will definitely have a little bit more ammunition to give back to you in terms of quality information. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for this week's Ask Tundra Nation segment. Thank you to everybody who's participated. And don't forget to join us next week, folks, when we still don't know what the f we're doing.